Yes, indeed. Deputy Bob Hill. We live in a small island, but an incredibly large number of very senior people in the administration or the services, the public services that are provided, seem to be suspended at the moment, and it seems to be an issue you keep taking up. There's something very fundamentally wrong. What exactly is it, as far as you're concerned?
One gets the feeling at times that someone's got to take the blame for something. And what you do, as I mentioned about before, noble cause corruption. What you find that someone's got to be answerable, so they look to see who they can blame. And I think we have in particular, two particular instances at the moment. One with the chief police officer, and also Dr. Day. I think it was quite fair to say, I think it's public knowledge, which is where something has gone wrong and they've got to find someone to blame. And rather than find out what's wrong with what's gone wrong, and then suspend, they've now got someone, two names, let's see if we can find something that they may be responsible for, but we'll suspend them in the meantime because we want them out of the way whilst we can make our inquiries. To me, that seems the wrong way. One should make sure you've got the evidence beforehand and then suspend and then deal with it.
So far as the doctor is concerned, we do know that a patient died.
Yes.
So there is a real grievance there, which has been expressed. We don't know what is actually wrong as far as the chief police officer is concerned, but we do know that a patient has died. Now, you've just had a very long debate in the States. You didn't win the debate that you were regarding the inquiry which is taking place. But so far as the person who's dead is concerned, will the inquiries which are taking place, will they resolve any issues?
No, because you can't bring the person back. But what they can do is ensure that the procedures that are in place or should be in place are followed. And I think it was something that Daniel Wimberley very cleverly picked up and wisely picked up the other day, was that there were a lot of procedures that should be in place and the procedures were not followed. And that is the seriousness of it. And whilst it won't bring back the nurse, what we've got to do is ensure that the proper procedures are in place. So if something does go wrong, we should be in a position to know why exactly sooner than later. This is a farce, a 3-year farce, and we're getting nowhere at great expense.
So far as the named doctor is concerned, what is the relationship of him with the person who is dead? As far as the investigation is concerned?
As far as I gather from the amount of inquiries I've made, it would appear that Dr. Day actually was the person responsible for initially appointing the doctor involved with the death. He followed the set procedures. He appointed her on the strength of the advert and her qualifications. Thereafterwards, it was in the hands of other people because her contract was continued, and in fact it was continued and was going to continue way beyond the fatal operation. It was carry on to the end of December. So I can't understand why Dr. Day has been, if there's any question about him appointing the right person, after she'd carried out the initial 2-week period for which she was appointed, thereafter other people are involved.
Let's be quite clear then, what you were saying in your proposition, which was so narrowly defeated, what was it you wanted changed about the investigation, the Verita investigation, that would give a better result to that investigation? What was it you wanted changed about it?
Could I just make a correction? I wasn't defeated. It was a tie. So because it was a tie, it couldn't go forward. However, there was a win, because what we've now got to have an inquiry. Well, I couldn't lose in a sense yesterday, because even if I still believe Verita should be doing it. But the fact was that the state, because of a tie, it means they can't do it. But however, very importantly, the Council of Ministers and the State Employment Board are going to have an inquiry. So there is going to be but my concern was that the terms of reference that Verita are currently using is that it says they must look into the main actions taken in response to the death. And one of the main actions taken has been conceded. We haven't had much from the Minister, but she has conceded that the suspension of Dr. Day was a main action. So therefore, if it was the main action and is part of the terms of reference, it would follow that the Verita, who are well into the investigation, they should continue.
But as far as the public, this is what puzzles the public. The doctor who suspended wasn't in the room when the operation was taking place. Another doctor was carrying out the operation.
Yeah.
So it's difficult for the public to understand what possible liability can there be for Dr. Day as far as the death is concerned.
You're exactly right. So what we've got actually is the doctor involved in the operation was actually charged with manslaughter, and she was acquitted. So that's the end of the matter. As far as that doctor is concerned, no doubt there may be disciplinary action taken under the medical council, etc. But from the legal point of view, from a court point of view, she was found not guilty. Cleverly, she did not go in the box. She chose not to give it, as it was her right. And also, very importantly, they never called the suspended doctor. So we've now have a case where this suspended doctor has never had an opportunity to express himself in the court of law.
Obviously, you're concerned about the career of the suspended doctor, and if at the end of the day the suspended doctor, Dr. Day, is found completely innocent of any blame, and if the inquiry doesn't put the blame on any particular person for the death that has taken place, there's a huge expenditure which has been involved in suspending the doctor, damage to his career, all sorts of implications. What will be the satisfactory outcome of the Veritas investigation? It seems they can find no definite conclusion. I mean, nothing can come from it.
Quite possible. That's the farce of the whole thing, that if it's only going to be a part investigation, we were promised a comprehensive, robust, thorough review by Veritas. Theirs will not be. I think it was Deputy Tatia mentioned about going in for a service and having everything done except the carburetor, because that wasn't part of the terms of reference. So the car drives out, it's got a faulty carburetor. So we have a faulty report, and that's what we have, a faulty car, and no doubt we'll have I think a part report, because now it's been agreed that they're going to have a report into the suspension. And what I consider actually, what we should be looking at, why was the doctor suspended? And why wasn't he told what he was suspended for? And why were not the normal procedures whereby this investigation should have been carried out 3 years ago? And all this nonsense about the fact it has to wait for a court trial, it was rubbish, because Dr. Day was investigated, interviewed like other doctors involved, including the case manager, including the medical director, the man responsible, or one of the men responsible for excluding or suspending Dr. Day. He was interviewed. None of them were charged. And yet here we have a doctor who happened to be the person who appointed her in the first place is being suspended.
Very serious issues. You're one of the very few states members, one of the very few 53 states members who pursues this. It's not the only case of its type. There are other very senior people suspended under remarkably similar circumstances. Is there not a need for a more general, far-reaching investigation of the whole process?
Well, yes, definitely. I was able this year, with great difficulty, but we now have a system in place where before anyone's suspended, they should be told exactly why, and it should be in writing, and before they're suspended, they will be suspended along with a colleague to bear witness. And then after a month of their suspension, they are now or should be entitled to go before a review board for the chief officer to justify before the board as to why the suspension should be continued. What I'm hoping to do is to make sure that all the work is done before someone's suspended, and then is in case we have with the doctor is quite clear. I've done a tremendous amount of research. The doctor was not suspended under the proper procedure, and I gather now that we're finding the same thing about the police chief. People should not be able to ride roughshod, and what I find so frustrating, that people who are responsible, no one is questioning them, and the continuation of the suspensions, which is costing great grievance and unsatisfaction to those people involved, but also the public who are bearing the cost.
Senator Brecken's got a proposition lodged, we believe. Is that going to help the system? Is that going to help solve some of the problems that you're looking at?
Well, I would hope so, because quite clearly there are major concerns at the hospital. I said I consider there to be noble cause corruption, and I honestly believe that. We're trying to find someone to blame for something.